welcome to another episode of You Don't Know Jack with Lydia and Matt. How's it going, Matt?
Good, Lydia. Back from a brief sabbatical, though no problems. We were just life, work,
just,
all that jazz.
College tours.
Yeah,
things.
My long nightmare has got to come to an end soon, though.
I would hope so.
We're
just
down
have
to
her call me.
Down to 2 schools.
I mean, is it a flip of a coin at this point, or
what goes on in the mind of a child or of a young woman?
Your child. She shares half of your DNA.
I know.
So you'd think that would give you some more insight.
Well, I think that's why she's torn 50-50 between the two places.
Whatever.
Supposedly closing in on a May 1st deadline, but now I've heard they've extended because. Shout out to anybody who has kids in college. You're certainly aware of the federal government in their infinite wisdom decides to redo the FAFSA forms, and it's been a disaster. And and they're so far behind.
So they're extending. So the federal government is extending the acceptance date.
What they're so far behind, the colleges are extending the acceptance date for students because they can't tell them what they're awarding them.
Oh, okay.
Now,
I got you.
In our family, I'm fortunate enough, my child's fortunate enough, much to my chagrin, doesn't qualify for need-based, but even merit-based is still based off FAFSA.
Gotcha.
So you can't even be told, like, hey, you get a $7,000 merit scholarship to come here. They can't answer that until they're done FAFSA. So the colleges keep having to move their deadlines because students really can't make an informed decision because they don't know if they're going to have the money to go.
Well, that's fair.
It is,
but
it still makes for a mess.
Of course.
And it creates a lot of anxiety for yours truly.
Well.
Yeah. Yours truly here, folks.
Deep breaths. The talent has some anxiety.
Yeah. I think I'm going to start just doing that on Twitter, saying yours truly.
Please don't.
Rest in power.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. If you know, you know.
Yeah.
Well, since we've been gone, a lot of things have been happening.
Yes.
Sports does not stop when we take a break.
Welcome all my friends to the show that never ends.
Mm-hmm. So the NCAA tournament, we did brackets.
Yes.
Men's and women's brackets. Men's went how we thought it would.
Yeah.
UConn won. NC State shocked.
Great run by the Wolfpack.
Mm-hmm.
I did not think they had it in them. I thought they would just be gassed from the that ACC run.
Right.
But
and Purdue.
It was a great story. Purdue. You were skeptical of Purdue just because they've been so bad in the tournament.
Yeah.
But look, the best team with the best coach won.
Yep, back-to-back wins.
And
the better team overall. I mean, I watched the Purdue UConn game, which number one. Why put it on at 9:06 or something?
Yeah, you know how much of that second half I saw?
None.
No,
you didn't see any of it. You're like, I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
Listen, it was a great game. It was close in the beginning, and then UConn basically shut down the Boilermakers.
Well, and what UConn also decided is, we'll let Zach Edey score as many points as he wants.
Absolutely.
We just won't let anyone else score.
Right.
We're going to play one-on-one against Edey. We're not going to double team him.
Nope.
And he can't score enough because especially they have, Klingman and the other guy, they have enough big guys to run at him. And
Klingman had a great game.
He's a beast.
Oh my God.
He's a very good basketball player.
I did love the reporter throughout the tournament. She was interviewing Klingman, and she would have to hold the microphone at the very end of the microphone and extend her arm all the way up, and he still would have to bend over.
Yeah.
And finally she got a ladder. They're like, go get a ladder. And she's like, I got a ladder. And it's like the last
he's not a small guy either.
He's not.
I mean, but yeah, so I mean the tournament was I mean it didn't other than NC State was a great story throughout.
There was no Cinderella stories or anything else.
I will tell you, in classic Coach Cal style, it breaks on during the tournament championship game. Coach Cal leaving Big Blue, shout out Big Cat, Big Cat 57,
Big Cat 57.
Yeah,
what are you gonna do about it?
Well, I mean they more people turned them down than I've ever seen. I mean, it was wow. They got turned down hard.
They did.
Set up for Mark Pope, who played for Rick Pitino, as the new coach of Kentucky. But man, people don't leave Kentucky to go to other SEC teams. I mean, as the bluish of blue bloods, pun intended, since it's Big Blue. But to see Coach Cal leave to go to Arkansas, and it's Kentucky fans are they're difficult, and Coach Cal wins a lot, and it's I mean, look, I think John Calipari is a good coach. I think he's a dynamic recruiter.
Yeah.
And, I think they will miss Coach Cal, more than they think they're going to miss
Well,
Coach
I
Cal.
think that's the reason most players would go into the transfer portal is
Yeah.
to play for that coach. So
Right.
I'd be surprised to see how many of the Kentucky players go into the portal to go to Arkansas.
Well, and here's what you know about Coach Cal. You like him, hate him, whatever you want to do with him. He gets you to the NBA.
He's
and
effective.
That is,
He's
and,
effective.
And these guys are here to go to the NBA.
Yeah. Generational wealth, even if it's for 2 years.
And
or
if
something.
you want to go to the NBA, you go play for Cal.
Yeah.
And I just think that's going to be a huge. I don't.
The only reason people go to Kentucky was it's the 1 year stepping stone into the NBA.
Yeah.
And guess who's going to wear that crown now? Arkansas.
Right. Or places like that. Correct.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that isn't Kentucky. That's Cal.
That's right.
That's Coach Cal.
So he could play. He could go to WVU.
Yeah.
And it would be the same thing.
It will absolutely be the same thing.
And you're just sitting here going, okay, so Kentucky, your entire business model, because let's face it, universities are businesses at the end of the day. FAFSA or not.
If they ain't a businessman, I'm surprised because man, they're looking to
they're nickel and dime and everything.
Exactly, trying to make $1 out of 15 cents.
Yes. So I feel like the business of going to Kentucky, you're not going there for. I mean, you might be going there because it's an alma mater situation. However, you're gonna have a hard time with your raising money and boosters and all that kind of stuff if you don't have a sports team that is to the caliber that Cal is making it. And, you lose a coach like that, you're scrambling.
Yeah, and they looked like they didn't have a plan. Like they kept saying he was on a hot seat. Well, it's like a presidential election.
Mm-hmm.
The first question is, if I get rid of this guy, who is the alternative? If this guy's doing a good job, you don't go to the next question.
Right.
But even still, if you're saying, like, I don't think this guy's doing a good job, you look at the alternative. And if you're Kentucky and you're not happy with what Coach Cal's doing in the tournament, I understand that. But what were your alternatives?
And my thing is, tournament, whatever. As far as I'm concerned, the Wildcats haven't been really dominant in the tournament for years, and they're never going to be because they don't have the longevity, and they're known for one and dones.
Right.
And that's okay. But you know what else is really great? The money coming in, the people coming to your stuff because they're going to see potential NBA players.
Correct.
And you're going to compete in your conference and whatever, and you might make it far in the tournament. You might not, but that is not the game you're playing.
And it wasn't like they're a bad team. I mean, that's a top 25 team, top 15 team.
That's what I'm saying. It's like you're not.
I had them in the Final Four, but you know what the problem was? They can't play defense.
No, they're terrible at defense. Yeah. And defense wins ball games.
Yeah, but I mean, I thought the biggest story of the NCAA tournament, other than NC State, was Coach Cal.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's really unfortunate, I guess, for the UConn team because, man, winning back-to-back is really hard to do.
It's very hard to do.
It's been a while since someone's done it, since Florida did it. Who also, they kicked the tires on Billy Donovan about the Kentucky job, and he did not want it. Didn't want to leave Chicago, the Bulls, for that. And, so it's been since like 2006, 2007, I think, or maybe even a little before that when Florida went back-to-back. So it's been
a while.
Almost 2 decades. So it's hard to do. And but we're talking about blue bloods. Make no mistake about it. Connecticut is a blue blood.
Oh my God.
I mean, you have won, 6 national championships since like the late 90s.
Yeah.
Since like 99 with 3 different coaches. That's as blue blood gets, man.
Yep. And the
I think they've been to 7 Final Fours and 6 times they won national titles. That's crazy.
That's a great average.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, I love UConn. I've always loved UConn. I've won a lot of brackets with UConn. So happy with that. Let's another team that won back-to-back national titles is South Carolina Gamecocks. We got to talk about Dawn Staley. We got to talk about.
You saw her name floated for the Kentucky job, for the Kentucky men's job.
Yep. She's making.
I think that's a dynamic. I think, you know what? It would have been interesting if Kentucky would have had the chutzpah to do that.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, I'll tell you what. Dawn Staley is amazing. Like, she was a great player. I love watching her play. 1, 2. She has created a world-class program. And by that, I mean, she had a woman from Brazil, Camila Cardoso.
Who is gigantic.
Who
that is a big human.
She's
just a big human. And good basketball player.
Incredible basketball player.
Human.
She was living in Brazil. She immigrated to the United States at 15 because she wanted to play professional women's basketball. She learned a new language. She wanted to go to South Carolina.
And she then ended up being the number 3 pick.
Number 3 pick in the draft.
With Angel Reese on the same team, right? They both went to the same team. But I know we're going to talk about that. But
we're going to future. Yeah. We're going to get that. But my thing is, she's inspiring a whole, and let me tell you, well, not just Dawn Staley, but Dawn Staley and Caitlin Clark and, Angel Reese and Aaliyah Boston the year before. There's the women
Paige
Bruckers. My thing is, these women are inspiring an entire generation of female and male athletes.
I think they're just starting to inspire athletes.
Yeah.
I think Caitlin Clark is a perfect example. She's inspiring athletes, basketball players, men, women, however you identify, they're inspired by her.
Absolutely. There were great games in the women's tournament. To the fact that 24 million people viewed those games and only 18 million for the men. So they're knocking it out of the park as far as that goes. UConn, they dominated some of these games. They were right with Iowa, all the way until the very end. They only won by one. Iowa won by like 2 points or something crazy.
The questionable, the offensive.
God, at the end.
Yeah, the illegal screen call.
You don't call that. Yeah. Like, it's at the end of the game, you just don't call it. 10 seconds left or something like that. That was a great game. The LSU South Carolina game, or the LSU Iowa game.
Iowa game, yep.
I just they thought it was shut down Caitlin Clark, but everybody else was hot on that team. She's not the only shooter, and she's the number one shooter, but she's also the number one in assists.
But by the way, I totally agree with that strategy, because that's exactly the strategy that we talked about with Edie, right?
Yeah.
You let Caitlin Clark get hers.
Yeah.
And can you stop everybody else?
No. The answer is no.
In that game, they could not.
Yeah.
I thought South Carolina, though, did a great job against her.
Oh my God.
I thought Dawn Staley frustrated her. They just guarded her really hard.
Yep.
Nothing dirty, anything else.
They just played good basketball.
They had a very good plan to take her on.
They shut her down, and then they also played.
As much as you can shut her down. I mean, she's always going to get hers.
Of course, but you want to limit her.
You know what else they
shut her down?
You know what else they did? They wore her down physically. They just exhausted her. They made her run so much to work to get open.
Yep.
And they just it just took a physical toll on her. I mean, look, she's a world-class conditioned athlete, but still, you're playing against world-class conditioned athletes. They can wear you down physically.
South Carolina's conditioning is on a whole nother level, and I will say that you run the other team to exhaustion in the first half of the game. The second half is yours. That's
when you see them go inside, and they just start. You'll see them killing you on the offensive glass, and that's a principle of fatigue.
Yep.
Exactly. But I will tell you this: we talked about Dawn Staley, and again, what a great run! The best team with the best coach won again.
Absolutely.
It's very much like the men's tournament: the best team and the best coach. Here's my issue with Dawn Staley: what's next? Because I do think she needs to. Well, she's got to get the opportunity.
She's got the opportunity.
But I'm saying it's of anybody who's ready to go to make that jump to a big time men's program. And I think she's perfectly suited for college basketball.
Yeah.
Because by the way, now you and I both talked about it. I don't like it's the case. I don't think going to the NBA is a step up for Dawn Staley. I do not believe it is. I think she's coaching at the highest level, the most prominent level, is being compensated accordingly because of her.
She's the highest paid women's coach.
In college. And it's completely understandable. But I'm just saying, fine, it wasn't Kentucky, but when does and maybe that's too blue-bloodish to start at. I don't think it is. But when is there a good, solid college job come open? Let me give you a Maryland's of the world, an NC State of the world. Programs that have won national championships, that are good core programs.
Kansas.
Yeah, but Kansas might be a little blue-bloodish for the first jump. But when does somebody take that jump? Because I think that is what Dawn Staley needs to do, and I think she's the perfect person to be that crossover. I'm not saying you can't be a legendary coach, and we're going to talk about a couple, in Stanford's just retiring. But I'm talking about, when do you make that jump? Because I think she is the person who is most equipped to be that trailblazer.
I agree. I 100% agree.
And listen, I'm not going to, and it has nothing to do with race, and I'm not talking about Jackie Robinson. There's no one can compare what Jackie Robinson had to go through when you broke that barrier down. But it is someone breaking a barrier down. This is a glass ceiling.
Well, it's for women too.
Right, but you're thinking, who has the skill, the gravitas, the cred, and the fortitude and the personality to
She's
do
got that
it.
in
She's
spades.
got it.
I mean,
and I'm just saying, I think she will, her message, she has the ability to explain to 18 and 19-year-old men, just as she does to 18 and 19-year-old women, if you do this, son, if you do this, buddy, you can play at the next level. I can make you a better player, and I just think she's the most equipped to do it. Do I think Gino could have done it 15 years ago? Yeah, I think he's a little old to do it now.
Sure.
And there's been any number of coaches, but I'm saying, do I think Pat Summitt could have coached men? Yes.
Oh yeah, totally.
But it's not just a gender thing. It's a personality. It's a strength, and you can just see it in certain people. Like, okay, they're gonna resonate. Kim Mulkey, I don't think she can, because I don't think her style. I think her style starts to become off-putting to women and men.
It's not great.
You can't.
She's got that
drill sergeant mentality's got to go away.
It's just not that.
Those guys don't want to play for that.
Yeah, Dawn Staley's like, okay, everybody, her approach is very much internal and meditative and like going inside and figuring out, okay, we're going to calm down, we're going to look at this, we're going to look at film, we're going to be very calm about the situation. I see Dawn getting upset when it's appropriate.
But you just can't. It just can't be that all the time.
But she's not like on the sidelines, peacocking, and she just sits there and observes.
Do I think Dawn Staley probably once a year throws that team off the practice court and says, "Get the hell out of here. This is a waste of my time, your time." Sure, of course she does. Coaches have done that for years.
Yeah,
but she's not doing it. She's not breaking clipboards, and that doesn't resonate.
Chairs.
That doesn't resonate with men or women, young men or women. That's just not how you want to be coached anymore.
Yeah, that's an interesting question you bring up about like what her next steps are.
But I can't sit there and think. I do not think. And I don't know the woman, just from watching her. I'm just telling you that type of personality has got to be sitting there thinking, this is great, this is awesome, but somewhere in the back of her mind, what's next?
Yeah.
What's next?
That's how you grow. That's how you move.
Yeah.
So speaking of legendary coaches, we should talk about Tara Vanderveer, who retired. She announced her retirement.
Stanford, three-time national champion,
three-time national
gold
champion,
medal coach,
gold medal women's basketball coach for the Olympics. She's the winningest coach in NCAA history.
For the moment,
for men's and women's, it probably will be surpassed by Gino
in the next season, because they were very close to one of them.
Yeah, they were like 3 or 4 games apart. And it basically, that was the joke,
who dies, literally who retires or who dies first.
Yeah, exactly.
The other one was going to be, I think that was between themselves even. Yeah.
I mean, she's an incredible coach. Her record speaks for herself. She is retiring, which I think is very well deserved. And she's going to enjoy her retirement. Yeah. One of her assistant coaches is taking over. She played on one of the national championship teams and won a national championship coaching as well as playing. So she is a Stanford Stan, and she will take over that program beautifully, I think.
The Cardinal.
The Cardinal.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly right.
But no, so it's a well-deserved retirement. Much like she's very much to Stanford women's basketball what Mike Krzyzewski was to Duke basketball.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, and I think
she beat his record.
Right, and
which I love.
I'm pretty sure those guys were friends, because one of Krzyzewski's guys, I can't remember which one. I think it was Johnny Dawkins, coached at Stanford the men's team for a while. So there's definitely connections between those programs.
Yeah, I think that if you're a college basketball coach on any level, you're at the top of your game, you're gonna interact with other basketball coaches.
But again, ran similar kind of style programs.
Absolutely, very well respected. Yeah. So this is a great stepping stone into the WNBA draft, which happened about 4 days ago in Brooklyn at the Brooklyn Academy of Music, and it sold out instantaneously. Probably because Clark announced that she was going into the WNBA.
I was going to say,
neither one of us thought that was going to happen.
I'm not taking away from any of the other wonderful players that were drafted.
No.
Everything that you just said, the watching of it, the turnout for that, all comes down to 2 words: Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark, yeah. So Caitlin Clark did go number 1 to the Fever, the Indiana Fever, which, FYI, has sold out all of her jerseys already. And also, when I was looking for Mystics tickets, because that's the closest WNBA team we have in DC, they had put them on pause because they had to move it to a bigger venue. It'll now be played at the Capitol Center, and those tickets go on sale the 24th. So keep your eye out for that. And then you can go see her play in DC. So Caitlin, so my thing is, it's a Caitlin Clark effect, I think is what they're calling it. Meaning, kind of like with Taylor Swift, where she would come in and build economies. she's selling tickets so much to the point that they have to go to larger venues, which is amazing for the WNBA.
You know, and listen, have there been better players in the NBA than Larry Bird and Magic Johnson?
No.
Sure.
Well,
maybe there have been
not.
better players, but there has never been guys. Every guy in the NBA should send both of those guys a piece of their check, because the NBA exists as we know it because of Larry Bird and Magic Johnson.
Yeah.
They came into the league, that rivalry, the way they played, the styles, they energized two of the seminal programs of the NBA. And I think Caitlin Clark could have that effect. But now what Caitlin Clark really needs, and whether it's, you know, he said Angel Reese went 7th, she needs her Magic for if she's Bird or if she's Magic or Bird. She needs that rival. And you know, that. And,
I mean, but Taurasi's still playing.
Right, but she's getting old, though. You know what I mean? Like, I'm saying, but who is the person...
Paige, when she goes in next year.
And it might be, you know, who can go toe-to-toe with you for a decade. Larry Bird and Magic Johnson went toe-to-toe for a decade.
Right.
You know, everybody else was playing for second. It doesn't take away, hey, I understand the 76ers had Julius Erving and Moses Malone, okay? 2 all-time players, and they won a championship in there. But nobody paid attention to them. It was about, the NBA was on frickin' tape delay, the finals, before Bird and Magic. Caitlin Clark can do that to the WNBA.
I agree.
But I think she also is going to need that rival. Someone's got to come up
and also I feel like she's playing in a whole different level of basketball when she goes into the WNBA. So she might be a little humbled in the beginning. I think she'll still be a star for sure. But I don't know if she's going to be playing all the time.
No.
And I think that she even have said, you know, look, I went to the Fever. That's in Indiana. I'm a Midwest girl. Right. I feel like this is probably the best fit for me. Smart. Iowa's really close to Indiana. You know, you got already a fan base in the Midwest.
No, I think Caitlin Clark's going to learn the difference between playing against girls and women.
Absolutely.
Okay?
And I think that's and they're all going to experience that. Now, Cameron Brink, she went to the LA Sparks. That's great for her. I think she's from LA, the area. So I think that's a good place for her to go. She went number 2. And then Camila Cardozo from South Carolina, the center there, she went number 3. She's going to Chicago.
And that's where Angel Reese ended up going 7th.
And Angel Reese says, I've been playing against her since I was 15 years old. Now I get to play on the same team as her. It's going to be great. So
and they basically said no one's going to get a rebound against them.
No. Well, and that's the thing. So I think that's an amazing thing. One caveat I will say is that the WNBA had a really successful draft and it went off without a hitch and everybody's very excited about it. But the illusion of the draft is kind of problematic because most of the team rosters are full.
Right.
Meaning that, you got drafted to the NBA, but guess what? You're going to get cut.
Right.
Because you're very talented and that's great.
But there's not enough teams, there's enough spots.
Not enough teams, not enough stops. And my thing is that I've been hammering on this, I think, for the past 2 years.
You have been.
That the WNBA is missing opportunities and markets that will support a WNBA team that will allow you to continue to grow and continue for you to make money. So why aren't you doing that? I don't understand it. They're behind. They're 2 years behind now because college basketball, women's college basketball is getting over 24 million views on a tournament where they expect those players that they can continue to watch them in the WNBA and on a better professional level. You are not meeting expectations. Yeah. You've got teams like Toronto who are begging for an expansion team. You've got people like Alex Ohanian who owns Reddit, Serena Williams' husband. They're like actively saying if it was the right thing and the right expansion, we would invest in women's sport. We feel like that's the best thing for us to do. Absolutely. You know, you have people out there that are wanting to do this. Why aren't you emulating the National Women's Soccer League and finding people who want to sponsor and get in on the ground level? It's missed opportunity after missed opportunity. And I think that leadership is just not there. And they're now saying, we're going to renegotiate TV contracts. You should have been doing that last year.
Right.
And then the equal pay issue. There's so many issues that they're just not
I understand
addressing.
They're not going to make what the NBA players make because they're I mean, look, in the NBA player, it's a player-driven league. Yeah. And those guys get the money because they're the ones who put butts in the buckets, and they put more butts in the buckets.
Yes,
bigger
but I
TV
think
contracts.
that tide is starting to turn.
No, and I think it will grow though. But they need to absolutely negotiate that. But they have to expand. They have to negotiate, and they have to be.
They have to be proactive.
But you know, when you have places that are begging for it, man, give it to them.
Give it to them.
Yeah.
And my thing is you're not taking the risk. those
owners are
are taking the risk, not the WNBA. The WNBA says, yes, we'll sanction this team. We will respect it. Yeah, whatever. You're part of the schedule. The only thing that's going to do is it's going to make for better professional basketball for women in this country to make a living wage where they don't have to go out of the country to perform. Russia. Exactly. You know what I mean? It's just, I cannot condone a great draft. I was like, the draft was great. Yeah, but here's the reality of it. The reality is that was all for show.
Right.
And you don't have the ability to make sure that all the people that were drafted will have guaranteed spots on teams. And for me, that's unacceptable.
I hear you. I'm with you.
So, do better, WNBA, and get better leadership. And if you need me, you can always call me. You can reach out,
No, but they need, here's what, to put a bow on it, what I see, they have, fine, I'm going to play the race issue as we see it. Mm-hmm. They have their Larry Bird, coming out of the draft. Who's going to be her Magic Johnson? Mm-hmm. Doesn't have to be a person of color, but you know what I mean? You need that she's going to need that rival. But there was a third corner to that triangle that made the NBA. It was Larry Bird, it was Magic Johnson, and it was David Stern. Mm-hmm. They need David Stern too. Yeah. They need their
David Stern. The woman who's leading it now,
Yeah, but they need somebody who is a visionary, and David Stern understood it.
Who understands how to negotiate TV contracts when you're having a bump. You don't wait for that contract to run out. You go back to the table and you say, "Listen, we need to renegotiate."
David Stern is sitting there watching, no doubt, the 1979 NBA, and I think he wasn't the commissioner then, but he comes on not long after. I think he was the lawyer for the NBA at that time.
Yeah.
And but he saw what those guys were going to be, and he knew how to take advantage of it. And they need someone to come in and say, "Man, this is our moment, and our moment is slipping by."
Well, and this is the other thing, that Caitlin Clark is the first of many.
Right.
And I think that you need to be prepared for that, and they were not at all.
Now, you said about next steps, though, and you want to get bigger, you want to get more attention. If I'm a WNBA owner and I'm a billionaire, I go say, Don Staley, I got a check for $5 million a year.
Come on over, hon.
I'll give you a 5-year contract, and I'll give you 10% ownership piece.
Yeah,
because she gets people to watch.
Yeah, she gets, and also players that want to play for her.
I'm just saying, what's next? I would be saying, Dawn, hey, you want to co-coach in the league, the NBA? Mm-hmm. Come take my team, win 2 world championships, own part of the team, and then go to the NBA.
Yeah,
or back to big time college men's. Yeah, that's what I'd be thinking.
I mean, to be quite honest with you, I think that if you take gender out of the equation, men, women, you just have good basketball. We've been saying that for years.
Agreed.
Like, you should say, look, you want to watch a good basketball game, tune into this game between the Mystics and the Fever. That's it. Just the team names, great. You go And the other thing is, people are showing up and they have to move arenas. If that doesn't show the actual physical growth of your viewership, I don't know what you're doing. And the thing that helped propel the WNBA to where it is now was COVID. Because you had eyes
in the bubble, and they were on.
In the bubble, and they were on, and people were sports deprived, and it was amazing. And they realized at that moment, this is as good, or if not better, or the same, whatever. It's sport. Yeah. And then they didn't do anything.
But the NBA has a financial vested interest in the WNBA.
Absolutely.
I would be saying, how do you get the TV contract to say, hey, we're going to do the women's game, every week we're going to have a women's game 7 to 9 and then a men's 9 to 11, and have them, play them at the same time. I like when the women's schedule is in WNBA during the summer, people are on vacation, man. It's harder to watch.
You need to have them in concurrent with the NBA.
Because we know, look, men's and women's college basketball managed to play concurrently and managed to get big viewership for both.
Yeah, because it's basketball
Play
season.
them concurrently, man.
Yeah, I think that there needs to be some changes there too. There's lots of room for improvement. I'm sure we could make a list and submit it. But I mean, I'm excited. But I just want to say there's a huge asterisk on the draft being successful because the majority of those women will be cut and they won't be on a team. Let's switch to Major League Baseball.
Out and running, man.
Oh my God, it's just the best.
It is.
I love it. The crack of the bat, nice announcers in the background. It's just glorious.
It's been great.
It's been really good. So let's start with the Beast, as we love to call it.
AL Beast, man.
AL Beast. No joke. It isn't a joke. I mean, the Yankees are in first place for now, 14-7. The O's are 13-7, right behind. The Jays are 12-9. Ugh,
yeah,
whatever. And the Rays and the Sox My Sox are 12-10.
Right.
I will say that is this is the hardest league. We have always said this. We are 100% accurate in that.
I mean, are we biased towards the beast? Yeah, but it's true. It doesn't change the fact.
Exactly. Facts. It's facts.
Yeah.
The NL East, though, the Braves are 14-5. The Phillies are 13-8. The Mets are 12-8. They're in there for now. And the Nats are 9-11. And the Marlins, for God's sakes, 5-17.
But I'm telling you, like, you look at the top two teams in the NL East, arguably two of the three best teams in the National League.
Yeah. And the Phillies have a fun.
Hey, but you go ahead.
The Phillies made history.
Yes.
Well, we're talking about the NL East, so we should talk about the history thing. So the Phillies were with the Wheeler, their pitcher, pitched a no-hitter until the 8th inning, which is rare now. They made history since the ERA became official in 1913. Only one MLB team has had starters combined for 40-plus strikeouts with an ERA of .25 or lower over a 5-game span, and that was the Philadelphia Phillies.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's just, but let me tell you, I mean, I'll give you a team, and the Orioles are playing them right now, and we've already played a series against them. Kansas City. Man, that Bobby Witt Jr., if Bobby Witt Jr. wins the AL MVP, I'm not that surprised.
Right.
I'm just telling you, man, KC is fun to watch.
They are.
They're tough, man. The Orioles got them. Orioles jumped on them pretty good last night and then had to hang on. But I'm telling you, man, Bobby Witt Jr. is like worth, like, the best part about the Orioles now playing 6 games against Kansas City is not only do I get to see the Orioles play a lot, which I love, obviously I love the most, but I've got to watch Bobby Witt Jr. and Kansas City play. Fun team.
You know, I think that's the thing about baseball is that you want your team to win, but you inherently are excited just to see good baseball talent, right? So like your team could be winning and this guy comes up to bat and you're like, man, that is a player's player, right?
I mean, and I will tell you, again, I'm absolutely, positively a homer. I'm totally biased for the Orioles.
Of course.
But, man, they have so many guys that are so fun to watch play baseball. I mean, the way they just grind and the way, like, you can see the confidence, the swag. Maybe it's cockiness. But, like, man, Gunnar Henderson, man, but talk about a guy. I was talking to my buddy who's a big baseball guy yesterday. We're talking about Bobby Witt Jr., and I said, about could win the MVP, and he's like, he might be the best player in the world right now. And I said, yeah, but if Gunnar Henderson wins the MVP, I'm not surprised either. Like, those guys are just that good, that young. Yeah. But the way the Orioles play, you know what? They were different style guys, but much like how the Red Sox used to be, the Orioles grind every at bat. They they do not give up outs easily. They are here to take pitches. They're here to foul pitches off. They're here to put the ball in play. They're here to run first to third. They're here to, I mean, the Orioles beat a lot of infield singles out because they all run hard. Yeah. The Orioles don't get double played that much. Now, when you hit a tailor-made, everybody's going to get double played.
Sure, of course.
But, man, if it's close, the Orioles are flying down the line. All their guys, they just run hard. Yeah. They play hard. I tell you, one of my favorite players to watch in the Orioles, and he gets kind of swept up because there's so much other this premium talent, Jordan Westberg.
Oh, yes.
Man, you talk about a grinder, and you talk about a guy, like, the joke's like, yeah, we saw Westberg, he smiled once. Like, he is just there. Like, he's intense. He's dialed in. Yeah, and he is just, like, grinding. And, you know, I mean, but it's just, Colton Cowser struggled a little bit last year when he came up, had a taste. This year, he's not. I mean, he hit one out of Boston.
He did.
And it was great because Ben McDonald's in the game, and it was like 3-0. The Red Sox pitcher was struggling. The reliever had struggled against the Orioles the day before. He's like, I wouldn't be surprised if Cowser has a green light here, 3-0. And, I mean, that ball was mashed over the dugouts into right field. I mean, it was just, as I said, it's like Big Papi territory. God. I mean, that ball was mashed. But the Orioles have been so fun to watch because of the way they play. It's not just they're winning. I like to watch the Orioles even when they stink. I like to watch. But I'm enjoying it, and all my friends are enjoying it because, man, they just play hard.
You know, you went to opening day. Yes. And and we went to one game last year against the Blue Jays. And there is, because of last season and this season as well, there is an feeling of lightness and happiness in Camden Yards that I haven't experienced in a very long time. And it was very nice to see. And I will say the new ownership definitely killing it.
Oh, man.
I mean,
I miss them. I missed them by like 45 minutes.
Really?
New ownership group goes into Pickles.
And buys
and
beer
buys
for
a
everyone.
round. It was like a $14,000 beer tab.
You know what else I like? They had a rain delay,
Yep.
and they were like, "We're gonna go ahead and give you tickets to another game."
Yep.
You know, and I'm like, the new ownership gets it. They're like, we're fans. This is what we would want if this happened to us. You know, they're very much of that mentality,
Yep.
which the O's fans appreciate because they have been, you know, dogging it out with the Angelos family for such a long time. And that was the quickest, I think, deal that got approved.
Yeah. Well, but they did say, look, like so many of the guys that run Major League Baseball have know who David Rubenstein is. Okay.
Right.
I mean, he runs the Carlyle Group, for God's sakes. He's a financial juggernaut. He's probably have investments for a lot of these guys.
Yeah.
So I mean, even like Manfred said, like David Rubenstein's a known quality. I mean, he's at Davos speaking. They don't need, this isn't just some Bitcoin billionaire that no one's ever heard of and they don't know where his money came. They know Rubenstein's lived out in the public eye for so long. His finance, you know, because of the nature of his business.
His provenance is very appealing for the MLB.
And they were like, okay.
Done. Here, do it.
This was an easy one for him.
But, you know, the fact that he's there, Rubenstein's behind home plate with Cal is like, yes, this is how it should be.
Yeah.
Like a Baltimore boy, done good.
Right.
And then Cal Ripken, like the most.
Another true Marylander, right? So you got
Absolutely.
Maryland guys, you know.
That are not looking to sell the team. They're not looking to move it. They're looking to expand, and they're looking to have a great baseball team, which is fun for us, even though we live 2 hours away. Definitely, it's an amazing experience. You walk into Camden Yards, and you're just like, oh, you know, it feels good.
Hey, went to opening day, same group of people. My girlfriend and I went, and then my buddy Nate Price and his wife. My only comment, every time we stopped the car, I told Price was driving, I called it the Cumberland 400. And every time we stopped the car, I thought a pit crew was going to come up and jack up and change the tires.
Oh, my God.
I mean, I was like, I expected to see like a 300-pound guy, the gas man, like jamming the tank into like.
So he's like F1?
Well, not like F, more like NASCAR.
NASCAR.
You know, I was
a little slower.
Yeah, but I just, you know, like, I just got like 300-pound dude, the gas man. That's his job because you got to be like gigantic to hold that. It's like a 10-gallon. I mean, pick up 10 gallons of gas. It is good luck.
Yeah, right.
I have a thing for the boat that's like a 14-gallon thing and it has wheels on. And like it takes my law partner and I both us to lift it in and out of the truck.
Yeah.
It's 14 gallons. I mean, it's heavy.
It's heavy, yeah. Absolutely.
But that's what I kept saying to Price. So he just kept thinking like someone's going zoom, 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 zoom. Like I was gonna hear like.
You know.
But he got us there one.
I was gonna say
one piece.
There and back.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. It was. I called it the Cumberland 400.
That's amazing.
I said, you know, every time we pulled in, someone was gonna put a new set of slicks on it.
And you're off to the races.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's good. I mean, I'm glad you had a good opening day experience.
Awesome.
I think that, are you going back anytime soon? Do you have another game on the
I have
books?
another one planned, but I wanted to go potentially last week, and I just couldn't get it, you know, and now I'm getting into graduation season.
Yeah,
you know,
you got a lot on your plate.
Yeah, so we're trying to get through that.
Yeah.
But no, I plan on, you know, get up here in Cumberland, get Delfest coming up. Hell yeah. You know, we got a lot of stuff coming up, but I'm sure I'm going to get down to multiple games this year.
I mean, that you have to. I mean, this is such a great.
I wanted to go
watch.
the next Friday to Pittsburgh, but then
yeah.
like logistics, I think work, what my daughter had going on. But then I was so glad I didn't because it was cold as hell, man. I had friends over there and they were freezing their, you know what's off.
Yeah, well, you can't do that.
No, okay. I mean, my heat went back on the house strongly last night.
Really?
Oh, are you nuts?
No,
It's
I'm
43 degrees here in Cumberland this morning.
I'm not nuts.
That heat is up at 69. Boom.
69.
Exactly.
Oh my word.
Yeah. That's me dialing it down. 69 is me dialing it down.
Okay, so for everybody that's listening to us, I'm sorry to bring this up again. We both know that I keep the house at a normal temperature.
No, there's nothing normal about where this temperature is. I look at that trash can every time and think, can I make a hobo fire right here?
You can't.
I literally have lost sensation in my toes, and it's not a diabetic condition. It's just how cold it is right now.
That's fine. You'll get over it.
It's not neuropathy. It is called Welcome to Lydia's house.
Well, you know, whatever. Keeps you awake.
Yeah, well, I mean.
No, I mean, listen, the heat's been off for like months, not maybe 3 weeks at least.
Mine had been off, I think, from Monday to yesterday.
Really?
And I woke up yesterday morning and it was brisk. It was like 67 in the house.
I think it's supposed to get down to 26 this week.
Yeah, let's get that thing fired up, Lydia.
It might kick
yeah,
on for that
yeah.
for sure.
But
Yeah.
man, I mean, I woke up and it was like 66, 67 in the house yesterday, and I'm like, who lives like this? I can tell you who doesn't. Not this guy.
You're like, man, this is what it feels like
I-
in Lydia's house. Let me turn the heat up.
I was like, yeah. Like every time I come in, I want to like sneak turn the furnace on, but I know you'll hear it. And
I'll
you'll know,
hear
yeah.
it. And then I'll turn it off on my phone.
Yeah. Like, what the hell happened?
Be like, I know. Well, it was warm. We had a couple of warm days, 84-degree days, which is like,
okay.
you know.
Well, it's warming. That's warming for me. Not,
I got it.
It's not hot. That's
but
warming.
The house warmed up a little bit, and I just ran the whole house fan, and that seemed to work.
I turned mine off when it was 72 in my house. I had the furnace still on, but it was up to 72. It wasn't kicking on.
Yeah, of course.
And so then I shut it off because it was like 72, 73. I'm like, okay, I'm good like this. No windows got cracked, mind you. Okay, no, nothing. Let's not get hasty.
Okay.
I did have screen doors open, just because I wanted the fresh air in.
Sure.
But I mean, I'm not sleeping with windows open. Okay? Let's not go nuts.
That's where he draws the line, ladies and
are
gentlemen.
you nuts?
Sleeping
I mean,
with the windows
with
open.
this temperature.
At this temperature, no way.
I mean, no way.
Okay.
If I had a fireplace, it would have been going last night. It would have been roaring.
God.
It'd been roaring last night.
Oh my God. I feel like I need to get you just like a heated bodysuit.
It would be like what is it, like the Native Americans, the
sweats.
the sweat house,
Yeah, sweat lodge. Yeah.
The sweat lodge. Yeah, I'm like ready to build a sweat lodge.
I've done sweats.
Yeah.
I think you would really enjoy it. It's like a sauna-like experience, but with a meditative quality.
Yeah.
Might be good for you.
I'm more of a steam room guy, though.
Well, this is steamy.
Yeah, I know. I like a
Steamy,
steam room.
yeah.
I take a good spritz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
I like the moist heat.
Well, yeah, they do build a fire on rocks and then they add water to it to make it nice and steamy. So you would enjoy it.
Damn Native Americans, they figured out everything. We give them no respect, man. They were onto this long before we ever thought to build a steam room. Are you nuts?
Well, that's why you have to look to your elders.
They knew some stuff.
They know some stuff.
They do know some stuff.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of somebody who knew a lot of stuff and was somebody that we both admired greatly, we have a passing of Tom Finan, who was a pillar of our community, and we would be remiss not to mention that.
Absolutely. So for Marylanders who know, Thomas B. Finan, the original senior, was Attorney General of Maryland, was earmarked for governor until there was a Democratic schism in 1966, and he lost, and that's how we got that criminal Ted Agnew, Spiro T. Agnew. He was the chief judge of the Court of Appeals. He died at an exceedingly young age, at I think 57, 58. And his namesake was his son, Thomas B. Finan Jr., who just passed away. And there's so many things that you can respect about Tom Finan, that everybody in our community, in our state, a lot of people knew Tom Finan. He'd been a delegate to multiple national conventions.
I think too.
He was, politically connected, but he was never the politician. He ran a newspaper here. He was a business leader. He was an investor. He was a husband. He was a father. He was a grandfather.
Philanthropist.
A philanthropist of the first order. He gave so much time to our community boards and activities, and he didn't do it for his own attention to build his resume. He just did it because it was the right thing to do. The word that I heard used so much about him was the word gentleman. And, I'm sure that my dad would have appreciated that, because Tom Finan, like my dad, are LaSalle graduates. And, the old adage was the boys will be boys, but LaSalle boys will be gentlemen. And Tom Finan lived up to every one of those ideals. And he was just such a good, kind, gentlemanly, respectful person. And I know you were interacted with him when you were younger. I interacted with him when I was older.
Yeah.
But you had a great story about just interacting with him and how your experience.
His daughter and I went to high school together, and I was privileged enough to have interactions with him throughout my teens into my adulthood. And it was always sitting and asking us questions about maybe what was going on in the world at that particular point in time, and hearing our perspectives, and never putting us down for our thoughts or ideas, but was really genuinely intrigued about what we were thinking about things, would often recommend things to read, or would reference articles that maybe would be helpful. And then throughout, after graduation and when I was in college and things, he would always ask me questions about what I was doing, and genuinely engage with me. And and also with Tim, my husband, when I met my husband Tim, and he was very much engaged with that. And there was never one moment where I felt like he was better than me in any regard. He was always very calm and a very loving influence, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that anybody that had any interaction with him would feel that warmth.
Yeah. I would say this. I don't think that Tom Finan would ever say that he was better than anyone, but he was the best of us.
Of course.
That's how I would,
Of
you know,
course.
I mean, yeah. And, you know, it was amazing to be at the funeral mass. And there were so many people, so many walks of lives, religions. You know, I saw doctors, I saw lawyers, I saw union folks, I saw politicians, I saw retirees, I saw folks of exceedingly wealthy to exceedingly not, and it was just they were telling stories about, you know, how Tom, you know, would be in a cab and made a point to learn something about the cab driver.
Absolutely.
And was explaining to his son, the guy that was working at their property at St. Michael's, like, you know, a person of Latino heritage, you know, and he's like, no, he's the hero. He's taking care of a family of 7, man. And like, that's a hero. Now, we're not heroes. That's what a hero looks like.
Right.
And it was just, he wanted to, like you said, when you were a kid, he wanted to understand you as a person. And he was the always learning. Always trying to, you know, understand the world he lived in. And like I said, I will not say that Tom Finan was better than us, because he would not want us to say that about him, but he was the best of us.
I agree.
And
I
by the way,
agree.
he's the best of us, not for Western Maryland.
But just in general.
Just in general.
Yeah.
He represents the best of us.
And I always would say, anytime I would see Tom, it might be at an art opening or just running into him in the street or the market.
Right.
I always felt better.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh, that was great. And I was like one of the highlights of my day.
I was sitting there thinking, when I last ran into him was at Sheets. And, you know, it was about 9-10 months ago. And just, you know, hey, how's it going? You know, and he was dressed up. Or I said, are you finished working out or going to work out? He had, you know, like training pants and a shirt. And he said, no, I was just heading there. And no, but he was just, again, it's not a loss for our community. It's a loss.
It is a loss
across all communities.
I think
when you lose people like
really,
that, when you lose people like that, he is what the best of us look like. You know, the best of all of us.
And we were very lucky that we had that example so close to us.
Yeah,
that's really that's a treasure.
Yeah,
really.
and you know how you should conduct yourself. How every, you know, if I would point to somebody to say, to my daughter or her friends, male or female, however they identify, that's someone who you want to be like. You want to be respected. You want to be understated. You want to be courteous. You want to be constantly learning, you know.
And open-minded.
Yeah. Tom Finan was able to convince people to go along with what he was supporting on boards or whatever, not by pounding his hand on the desk, by listening, by talking, hey, have you thought about this? And being able to cajole people in a very different way. As they said, he wasn't his dad, and he didn't try to be his dad.
No.
His dad apparently was a guy that he was the grip and grab guy. He lit up rooms and sucked oxygen out of rooms in a very good way for a politician. And I always respect it when somebody understands who they are, and when they have a father or a mother that is of prominence, and say, you know, I'm going to do it my way. And I'm not going to try to be them, because there's only one of them. And he never tried to do that. He just tried to, by all accounts, to chart his own course, and he charted it ably. He
was a calm constant in this community, which, you know, when it's not there anymore, it's very noticeable.
In the calm constant, people in community are always in short supply.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, you know,
we send all of our love to the Finan family.
Yeah. And to all of those who felt that loss. But most importantly to his longtime wife and his children. You know, it's you know, but they know that they are not mourning alone, and his memory, his name will ring out for years to come.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, this is episode 18.
Episode 18, the legal, sort of legal.
Sort of legal.
You can't do much at 18
Yeah,
anymore.
we went over this before we started.
You can buy lotto tickets.
You can buy lotto tickets. You cannot gamble in a casino.
Right. You cannot buy cigarettes.
Nope.
You cannot buy alcohol. You cannot buy marijuana.
You can vote.
You can vote, and you can go to war.
Yeah. So, but remember to vote. Speaking of voting, very important.
Yeah.
We have our
May 14th.
May 14th primary election.
I think early voting starts the 7th. I think I'm close.
And the mail-in ballots have already gone out.
Yep.
So if you, on this podcast, we're very big proponents of voting. I have never missed a vote, ever.
I don't think I have either. I think we've talked about that before. I don't think.
And primary voting is extremely important. I know it's only on party line. However, that is how you figure out who could take back the House.
And as you know, I'm old school. I like to go to the ballot box.
I know. Yeah.
Though, remember, I missed a podcast. I
You
was
did.
in line forever in 2020. It was daunting.
I was like, just mail it in, dude. And
was
you're like, no.
Not on my watch.
The principle of the matter.
I'm in the ballot box pushing buttons. I'm really excited, though. On May 14th, my daughter and I were going to the ballot together.
Oh, awesome.
And I can still remember, much to my, I was extraordinarily proud girl dad 8 years ago when I went into the ballot box in 2016 and was obviously convinced what I thought the result was going to be. And I had Rory push the button for Hillary Rodham Clinton. I said, you're 10 years old.
Yeah.
But we're going to elect a woman president, which we did not, unfortunately. But I said, I want you to hit the button.
Yeah, it was.
You walk in with me. You push that button for Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Yeah, I mean, I remember my parents. I grew up in West Virginia, in rural West Virginia, and so the place you voted was the cemetery office. And it was like my mom would bring me everywhere. So it was like, we're going to vote. And it was just a thing that we did.
I can remember going with my parents.
Yeah. But it was very important. And they instilled that in a very young age. And the first time I was able to vote, I was in a primary election because I would have been 18 for the general. And I was like, look, I can vote. And my mom's like, yes, you can. Let's go. So it was a very like proud moment, I think, for parents to go to the ballot to vote with your kids.
I came home from College Park in 1996 to cast my vote for William Jefferson Clinton. And I can still remember voting for William Jefferson Clinton.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
And so it's something that has stuck with me. It was because that was the first election I could vote in.
Right.
So there you go.
Yeah. So I feel like go out and vote for the primaries. Primaries are always really poorly attended.
Yes.
But this is the place.
This is when your vote really matters the most because it is so it's low turnouts.
Low turnouts. But
in Maryland, we're going to have a competitive 6th congressional.
Oh my God, there's like 16 candidates.
Right, we have
or
a competitive Democratic primary. Most likely, undoubtedly, it's going to be a showdown with Larry Hogan.
Yeah.
Who's the very popular Republican 2-term governor, who left office because he was term limited. Is the prohibitive Republican nominee. So that's a big race. The 6th congressional is going to be competitive.
Oh my God.
And then you get to. And obviously, then at the top of the ticket, ultimately, you're going to have in November, going to presidential election.
Yeah. So go out and vote, please.
So there's our voting. That's our public service announcement. So Lydia,
yes,
we just said this is the street legal age
of season 4.
Yeah. So that certainly begs the obvious answer to your question, which is there's 3 previous seasons. There's 17 previous episodes.
Yep.
Lydia, where are all the places you can find them?
iTunes, Stitcher, Amazon, Google Play, Spotify, Audible.
Love Audible.
iHeartRadio, Deezer, Player FM, and Samsung. So pretty much anywhere you get your podcast.
You can find us on X, Twitter, which is at JackYDK.
Yep.
Insty,
we are Jack YDK Pod.
Facebook.
Jack, you don't know Jack Podcast?
Yep. And you can find Lydia on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it.
At RTL Pod.
And you can find me at JMGGMPG. Every time I say X, all I want to say is when I say X, I want to say, gonna give it to you.
Right? Yeah. Exactly.
If you know, you know.
You know. My God, Philly. Let's go.
All right. See you next time.
All right.